So Michael Saylor's been going around the Middle East, meeting with all the sovereign wealth funds, meeting with every major bank in the world. Larry Fink last week was talking about how sovereign wealth funds bought Bitcoin in the 80,000s. Trump said they're close to signing a crypto market structure bill. And when you connect what Saylor's saying with what Trump's team is doing, the 1 million Bitcoin plan becomes crystal clear. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly what's coming. What's up, everyone? It's your boy Shubsy. Look, I've been watching Michael for a long time. I think the last time he got this giddy was when Elon announced that Tesla's buying Bitcoin back in the day, and I had figured it out through connecting some dots. I've been watching Saylor closely, and something's different, right? He's talking to all these banks. He's talking to all these sovereign wealth funds. He's traveling around the world, going to the Middle East. When you start connecting the dots with the Fed cutting rates, increasing liquidity into the system, Saylor didn't say this directly, but when you connect what he's been saying with what's been happening in Washington, the plan becomes pretty clear. Let's get into it.
So I've been meeting with, I've been obviously meeting with all the sovereign wealth funds. I've been meeting with, 50, 100 different investors, hedge funds, family office investors that are interested. I've been meeting with banks and people that own banks or run banks.
All right, come on. Guys, he just said he's meeting with all the sovereign wealth funds, all the big banks, fund managers, and everything. Let's see what else you got to say.
I've been meeting with fund managers that offer financial products. I've been meeting with regulators in every jurisdiction. And I think, and my message, by the way, is very, very straightforward. My message is we now have digital capital. Bitcoin is digital capital, is digital gold. On top of digital capital, we have a new asset class called digital credit. Digital credit strips the volatility from the capital and provides yield, income. So the simple idea is, if you have a 5-year-old kid, you can give them $1 million worth of land in Manhattan, that's capital, and tell them wait 30 years and then maybe they'll be rich, but there are no cash flows. Or you can give them a credit instrument that pays them $10,000 a month forever, starting now.
Okay, so his message is pretty simple. Bitcoin's digital capital. He's been saying that for a while. It's digital gold, and on top of that, you can build credit that strips the volatility and provides the yield. And that's what he's been kind of trying to do with all these preferred stocks and everything. And let's see if he's successful. Then he tweeted out, this is just yesterday, the Bitcoin hoarding will continue until the complaining stops. That's not a meme. That's a warning. But a warning about what? All right, so here's where it gets interesting. What if Saylor knows the Bitcoin reserve the U.S. has is actually happening? Listen to Trump here.
I'm also committed to signing landmark crypto market structure legislation this year to grow the industry. We're going to be growing it even more than people ever thought. It's a really hot industry.
So he's saying he's going to sign this bill this year. I think it's been delayed a couple of weeks. This is a bit of an older video. But if not this year, it should be pretty early on in the new year, 2026. And then this video drops.
Bitcoin Act establishes the Strategic Bitcoin Reserve, a federal initiative to ensure that the United States holds a meaningful position in the most important decentralized financial network on Earth. With an eye to fiscal responsibility and innovation, the legislation outlines a plan to phase in the acquisition of up to 1 million Bitcoin, or roughly 5% of its total final supply over 5 years. Importantly, this will be done without raising taxes or increasing government debt. The Bitcoin Act is designed to be budget neutral, relying on Federal Reserve remittances, which exceeded $76 billion in 2023, gold certificate revaluations, unlocking additional capital without new spending, and updates to the Exchange Stabilization Fund. These mechanisms allow us to build a strategic reserve without burdening taxpayers, while also potentially offsetting long-term national debt.
Interesting that he said that, and they did not announce that they're going to buy it out of nowhere. But they will use other measures, like he's saying, revaluing the gold, and et cetera, et cetera. Here's the connection here, okay? Strategy has around 660 Bitcoin as of, I think this is last week. I'm sure it'll go up. And the U.S. government has around 325,000. That's almost a million already. Now, here's what I think is going to happen. I think the U.S. government is going to actually acquire Strategy, similar to how they did Intel. They bought, I think, 10% stake in Intel a couple months ago or so. I think that was in the summer, where they bought 10% of Intel because they want the chips and all that for AI. I think a similar thing is going to happen with Bitcoin. They know they want to be the leader in Bitcoin. Trump has said that multiple times. And they can't just announce buying Bitcoin out in the market using taxpayer dollars and printing money to buy the Bitcoin. Not everyone's going to be on board with that. And they won't do that. So the only way I see it happening is acquiring the biggest company has the most Bitcoin, which is Strategy. And if they acquire that company, they're going to be at around a million Bitcoin. I think that's the only option they have. I mean, buy it on the open market. You drive up the prices with every purchase, right? And you telegraph the move to the entire world. Or you buy Strategy, just like you did with Intel. I think that makes sense. Here's the kicker, right? Saylor knows this. That's why he keeps buying. That's why he's meeting with everyone. He's not just building a Bitcoin treasury company, okay? He's building the bridge for the U.S. government to enter Bitcoin. I mean, he doesn't obviously outright say this, but I think that's what's happening. But, here's a little bit further proof. Here's what he says in Abu Dhabi recently, okay?
Market does ripples through South America, it ripples through Africa, it ripples through Europe, it ripples through the Middle East, it goes to Canada, it goes to Australia, it even goes to Hong Kong. Even the Chinese will copy what the U.S. is doing. So it's very, very profound inflection.
So even, like you said, even the Chinese will copy what the U.S. is doing. So this isn't just about America. Once the U.S. actually announces its reserve, whether it's through direct purchases or acquiring Strategy, Michael Saylor's company, every other nation has to respond. China can't let U.S. dominate the next monetary system, okay? Russia can't do that. The Middle East can't. Europe can't. So it's game theory, really. The first mover gets the advantage, but once the first domino falls, everyone's going to follow. They have to. And Saylor's been traveling the world and basically letting everyone know that this is what's happening. The U.S. government has embraced Bitcoin, and this is coming. He's warning them the U.S. is moving. What are you guys going to do? Look at this. This is a government website talking about crypto asset custody basics for retail investors. So it's actually talking about, private keys, public keys, and hot and cold wallets, self-custodying your Bitcoin. So, this is crazy. Just a couple of years ago in the other administration, this would not be a thing at all. So they're literally educating Americans on Bitcoin self-custody. And these guys ignored Bitcoin for years. And now they're teaching how to hold it safely. That's not random, It's preparation for what's coming. Okay, but it's not just the government, okay? Look at what's happening with the institutions here.
Good morning. PNC announcing that it has entered a strategic partnership with Coinbase. The arrangement will expand access to digital assets for PNC's banking clients and institutional investors, and PNC will provide banking services to Coinbase. Shares of Coinbase down about 3.7%, PNC up slightly. According to the release, the two companies will develop an initial offering that will allow clients to buy, hold, and sell cryptocurrencies. The head of Coinbase Institutional saying in the release that it will be supporting PNC's, quote, entry into the digital asset market with our leading crypto as a service platform, which provides PNC with a powerful set of tools to develop a scalable, high growth business built on a foundation of uncompromising security. Kind of in this space, JP Morgan saying last month that it was partnering with Coinbase to pilot JPMD, a deposit token managed by blockchain technology. And guys, later in the hour, we'll sit down exclusively with Bill Demchak, the CEO of PNC, to discuss this new partnership with Coinbase, the company's recent earnings, and bank regulation as he's here in Washington attending the Fed's Capitol Conference.
All right. So PNC, that's like the sixth largest bank in the U.S., launching with Coinbase and selling Bitcoin and buying Bitcoin. Okay. Now, this isn't the only bank that's getting into this game. Okay. Here's Michael again at that same conference talking about other banks.
Major inflection point is all of the large banks in the United States have gone from not banking Bitcoin 12 months ago to, in the past 6 months, I have noted and been approached by BNY Mellon, by Wells Fargo, by Bank of America, by Charles Schwab, by JP Morgan, by Citi. They are all starting to issue credit against either Bitcoin or against Bitcoin derivatives like IBIT. And so there's a sea change here. Wells Fargo and Citi have both publicly announced intent to allow the custody of Bitcoin within the banks. In the year 2026, they'll start to extend credit.
So every major bank, like you said, 12 months ago, they didn't even talk about Bitcoin. They were like, that's garbage, rat poison, as Warren Buffett says. And now they're issuing credit against it. They're offering custody. Wells Fargo and Citi publicly announcing they'll allow custody in 2026 of Bitcoin. And here's Larry Fink talking about if every millionaire in the U.S. asked their financial advisor to get them one Bitcoin, just one, there wouldn't be enough. I mean, this guy said just a couple of years ago that Bitcoin is just like some scam, some Ponzi, and now he's literally making the biggest amount of money. It's the most profitable ETF that's BlackRock has had ever. Here's another domino flipping or falling. Even Putin knows it. Okay, here's a video. I think this is old, but it makes a point.
Биткоин кто может запретить? Никто. А использование других электронных средств расчета кто может запретить? Никто, потому что это новые технологии. И чего бы ни было, чего бы ни происходило с долларом, эти инструменты так или иначе будут развиваться, потому что все будут стремиться к тому, чтобы снижать издержки и повышать надежность. Биткоин. Кто может?
So nobody can ban Bitcoin. Putin knows it. I think there were some people saying that Putin invented Bitcoin or Russia invented Bitcoin. Russia knows it. The nation state games have begun. No one can ban it. And Russia knows firsthand like what it's like to be banned. Russia was banned from the SWIFT system back in, I think, 2022. And ever since, they basically stopped buying any U.S. treasuries. But here's the real reason Saylor's so confident. Here's what he knows that most people are missing. So look at this chart, okay? The U.S. Treasury, this is the U.S. Treasury, the bonds, the notes. So this big blue spike, that's trillions of U.S. debt expiring in 2026, okay? And then you can see all the other ones expiring later. But this is next year. And all of that has to be refinanced out at a much higher interest rate than it was originally issued at. Unless, again, they cut the rates like crazy next year before this expires and they refinance at a lower rate, which I think they will. In simple terms, the U.S. loaded up on cheap debt. This was back in, whenever they lowered the rates in 2020 times when it was basically 0%. And then that cheap debt has to be rolled over at expensive rates. Interest expense is about to explode. Something has to give. The markets, taxes, spending, or the dollar, right? Someone has to buy the debt. And the reality is they'll buy it themselves, roll it over, lower the rates, print the money to buy their own debt. And next, U.S. Treasury has bought back $12.5 trillion of their own debt. It's the largest buyback in history. Fed won't say it's QE, but it really is. And it gets better than this. They actually announced last week, Powell went on and he said the rates are dropping, but he also said there's going to be $40 billion per month in T-bill purchases that started 12/12. And you can see the schedule right here. This is real, guys. This is happening. I think they're calling it liquidity management of some sort, but we know what it really is. It's QE, not QE. Shout out to Larry. It's basically money printing with a different name. And again, last time the Fed did this, Bitcoin went from 4,000 to 70,000 in the COVID era. And when liquidity flows back in, where does it go? It goes to stocks, real estate, and Bitcoin. So let me connect all the dots that Saylor revealed through his actions recently. So 1, Saylor meets with every sovereign wealth fund and every major bank in the world. 2, Trump commits to signing this crypto structure bill that should be coming out soon. 3, the Bitcoin Act proposing buying 5% of the supply, which is 1 million Bitcoin. 4, strategies accumulating towards 700,000 Bitcoin, which is the perfect target for the US government to buy. 5, Saylor's, warning other countries that once US does this, China and all these other countries will have to follow. 6, the government is educating citizens on Bitcoin custody. 7, every major bank went from we don't mess with Bitcoin to let's custody Bitcoin, let's offer credit against it in just 12 months. 8, Larry Fink confirms that sovereign wealth funds are buying. 9, Putin admits nobody can ban Bitcoin. 10, trillions of dollars are expiring in 2026 that have to be refinanced out at a lower rate. 11, the Treasury does the biggest buyback of their own debt in history. 12, the Fed starts buying back US T-bills, $40 billion every single month. You think Saylor's out here just promoting Bitcoin for fun? I don't think so. I think he revealed his plans through his actions. He's meeting with all these countries and he's literally just letting everyone know what's going to happen. He knows the strategic reserve is coming. He knows the money printer is turning back on. He knows institutions are positioning themselves before this is announced. And he might be building the exact vehicle the US government needs to acquire Bitcoin at the scale. The Bitcoin hoarding will continue until the complaining stops. The complaining he's talking about, that's the sound of people who didn't buy 100K, at 80K, at 60K. Because when the strategic reserve is announced, when that liquidity hits the market, when the sovereign wealth funds go public with their positions, there won't be enough Bitcoin for everyone. Look, I'm not saying Bitcoin's going to the moon tomorrow and the US government's doing this tomorrow. But what Saylor's revealing through his actions, not, outright saying it, I think it's pretty clear. The institutions are here, the nation states are positioning, and the money printer's just warming up. And right now, it seems like the fear and greed has actually recovered a little bit. It's still in fear. Still everyone's scared, but that's exactly when the smart money starts accumulating. All right, if you learned anything from this video, drop a like, drop a comment. I have a new video out every week, so subscribe for that. And let me know, do you think this Bitcoin strategic reserve is going to happen through the US actually buying Bitcoin out on the market? Or do you think they'll acquire a company like Strategy, probably Strategy, to get to that million Bitcoin target? Or do you think it's not happening at all? This is just some cuckoo land. Let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you guys next week. Peace.